Halverson wood product stuff a little bit as I go across a really bumpy bridge. There's two available models when it comes to the wood processors. You know, everybody is always asking me, you know, what's the difference between the two? Why is there such a big price difference? You know, is it really worth going to the 140? And this is where I like talking to people. First question I always ask is, how many cord are you wanting to do per year? You know, if you're telling me, you know, you're feeding an outdoor wood boiler or two, you know, you're somewhere in that 10 to 60 cords a year. The 120, perfect machine. If you're looking to do 10 to 60 cords, firewood startup operation, you know, for retail sale, you know, also great unit. If you're doing more than 60 cords a year, all retail, or you're doing shorter pieces for inside stoves, then the 140, I kind of favor that a little bit more because it has that internal log length cut guide, so you get that consistent, you know, 16, 18-inch piece wherever you set, you know, the guide to it. And it works a little bit better on the 6-way wedge, because when you look at the unit from where the log sits on the table, the distance from there to the I-beam is a lot taller, so you get a bigger pusher plate, you know, for shoving that round all the way through the 6-way wedge. Sometimes on the 120, the top 2 ears in the 6-way can get above the table. So it depends on the application you're looking to go in. So cord count is always the first determining factor where I try to go. The second determining factor is, or the second question that I asked for determining factor, would be, what's the skid steer or what's the power unit? If it's a big frame skid steer, you know, like a Kubota SVL 95, or a, you know, a Bobcat T770 or an 870, you know, these huge machines that are, you know, 94, 96 horsepower. There's a lot of breakout force when you go to curl that bucket back, and there's a lot more metal and a lot more strength that's packed into that 140 machine. So I like putting the 140, being the heavier duty unit, on the bigger frame skid steers. If you have a smaller frame skid steer, you know, like a smaller New Holland, an older Bobcat, the 120 works out nice because it weighs, you know, right around 960 pounds. You know, the 140 weighs in around 1650, I think, is the number where that's at right now. So you don't want to have, you know, all of your lifting capacity wrapped up into just picking up the processor unit itself. So you just kind of have to, you know, keep that in the back of your head too. You know, what's the lifting capacities? If you have a tractor, it seems the gallons per minute on some of the Kubota tractors, it's not there yet. You know, I do need 15.5 gallons a minute, right around 2850 PSI, to make it run, and that's a minimum spec. We can go for a little bit more, but it is definitely not a high flow machine. No high flow. We've had guys that have tried to run it on a high flow setting. It works really good for one day, but then when all the seals cool down, they crack, and it leaks like a shot pig the second day, and we kind of know what you did, so no high flow. But it does have the case drain to it. The case drain is really simple. It's just a non-pressurized return line. You can literally use, you know, 3/8 gas tubing to handle the petroleum, you know, base product, the oil, you know, to get back to the tank. Some skid steers have, you know, there's a plug that you can unscrew coming out of the top of the tank and just thread something in. We've had some people get creative. We've had other guys open up the entire cab and tap into an existing case drain line. You know, that level of install is, you know, completely up to you and what you want to do, but you do need it. If you run it without the case drain in there, you will pop the saw motor seal every time. So just take a few minutes, time, you know, whatever it takes to get that put in, and you definitely need it to run the unit. Don't even try cutting one log and go, oh, it'll be okay. No, it won't be okay. It's there for a reason. Please use it. So yeah, how many cords, you know, per year are you looking to do? What size and type of machine do you want to hang it on? And then it just comes down, you know, it's a price. You know, the 120. I normally don't throw pricing out in the videos, but it's pretty much been a staple product, and it hasn't moved, you know, as far as the pricing goes that I know of. And this is February, you know, of 2021, so as the market's kind of changed, and steel is probably going to go up, so don't hold me to this price. But as a fixed 4-way with that 14-pin plug and play, it starts off at $8,900. We can add an adjustable wedge to it. You know, it's $550 more for that, so you're looking $9,450. When it comes into that 140B unit, the commercial, you know, production unit, the suggested retail is $17,500. I do work a pretty decent discount on that one, but it's just something that we can talk about through a quote. And if we add a 6-way wedge to either unit, the 6-way wedge is $650. We can do a 6-way in lieu of a 4-way. It's only a $250 add. One piece that I just thought about, you know, mentioning the pricing here, was that 14-pin. Basically, if you have a newer style skid steer, you may not have all 14 pins in there. Some come, you know, pinned for, you know, 7 to 9. We were just dealing with a guy that had a Takuchi, and he only had 9 pins, but when he sent me the picture, it's definitely, you know, the larger aluminum plug. It's about maybe an inch and a quarter across. Normally sets right on top of the hydraulic quick connects, and it comes down to actual function buttons inside your skid steer. I need at least 5 function buttons to run that 14-pin. If you do have a Bobcat, you might have to get into the Skid Steer Genius adapter if you have any kind of foot pedals in that. But if it's the all selectable joystick controls, we've now been able to figure out the 140 unit for making that run right off your factory Bobcat controls. And what it is, Bobcat runs on, the easiest way I can explain it, Bobcat runs on a digital signal. Halverson and all of the other attachments on the market run on an analog, so there's just a little translation piece that has to get figured in. We can put a new module in the 140B units to make it talk to the Bobcats. Anything with hand and foot controls, it doesn't work. I don't know why. Even the Skid Steer Genius doesn't work with the hand and foot controls. It needs to be the big Cobra head looking joysticks. All of the other machines, I just need 5 buttons or like 3 switches, so there's a top and a bottom on it, you know, to get the functionality out of it. Some of the newer skid steers have the decals on the corner windows. If you look, it's the generic logo for like your hydraulic oil, you know, like the piston, but it'll have like a lightning bolt through it. At least that's what Kubota does. And then usually they're numbered. Sometimes they're just numbered, you know, per hand on the joystick, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6 if it transitions over to the other side. But I do need the 5 function buttons. It's basically your split, your return, the grabber arm up, the grabber arm down, and then the saw cut. So that's how the 14-pin works. If you're not fortunate enough to have that 14-pin, we do offer an in-cab harness. We've got some installation videos a little bit, you know, further down on the channel and how we do all that kind of stuff. It's basically just one long harness that runs from, you know, the front left where everything connects through with the hydraulics. You come up the boom into the cab, and then there's 2 little button controllers that zip tie on the front of your joysticks, and each button does a function out on the table itself, or out on the processor itself, where it's working the table or the grabber arm or the splitter itself. So there are safety features that are kind of packed into each unit. So some guys ask, well, can you ever bring the saw down and cut the table, or will the table go forward and, you know, bend the saw? The answer is no. You can't do that unless something goes catastrophically wrong. Then anything is possible. But from the factory, there are sensors that the saw has to be back in the return position, and that opens the circuit for the split function on the table itself to bring the round through the splitter. And then reversely, there's a tattletale switch in the back of the splitter table, so it has to be returned back before the circuit opens for the saw to drop. On the 140, there's a third one, and that's the log length cut guide I was telling you about, where basically the table comes back to a preset position. You drop the grabber arm, and then the table will continue back on its own, so that space that it backs up, that's your log length cut guide. They do come factory set at 16 inches, and we do have a video further down on the channel on how to actually, you know, set that up. It's pretty easy. It just takes I think it's a 1/2 inch wrench, and you can just move a little metal tab back and forth on how it reads, you know, against that proximity sensor.
In 2 miles, take exit 107 for Pennsylvania 477 towards Salona.
And I forgot that that's not on vibrate, so but I guess it's good too, so I don't miss the exit. But yeah, that's pretty much the summary here on the Halverson stuff. As far as the processors go, they do have a grapple saw, they do have an inverted splitter. But yeah, don't hesitate to give us a phone call. It's 833-SPLITTER. That's 833-775-4887. You can also email me. It's sales@shaverequipment.com. And I'm always outside doing something, whether it's driving like this, processing wood, moving machinery. So if I don't answer the phone, just leave me a voicemail, but you can always text me. That text message number is in the voicemail on that 833-SPLITTER number. But thanks for watching another edition here from Ramblings from the Road. I am AJ Shaver, and don't forget to hit that subscribe or the like button down below, and we'll catch you in the next one.